Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody outside and in between. Today, let's do something fun for the whole family. How about a trip to Disneyland? No, I have something much better. A public execution. While the Chinese were busy inventing movable type printing and Muslim scholars made advancement in almost every field of study, a big part of Europe was left trying and failing to re-establish something approaching the power and size of the Roman Empire. The neither Holy nor Roman nor Empire, aka Imperial Catholicism. But not all was bad in Europe. Between all the wars, plagues, and general misery, there were also advancements in many fields. One of them being the field of how to best inflict excruciating pain and brutally slaughter those you disagree with. Verily, there are manifold manners to inflict folk with torment. Manners spanning from small to big ouchie ouchies, and from "oh look an animal" to "ah look an animal." Now we will take a closer look at three fine examples. First, we have an execution method that became statutory penalty under English King Edward III in 1352. Who was King Edward III, you ask? Well, that's not important, but I have a fun fact. His father, King Edward II, was supposedly murdered by having a red-hot poker thrust up his anus. The penalty that became statutory under his son was called to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. This execution method was reserved for the worst of the worst, people who don't like the king. Pretty reasonable if you consider that the only thing the Brits like more than grass in hot water and borrowing artworks is the royal fam. The method consisted of being laid onto a hurdle, dragged to the place of execution, hanged almost to the point of death, then emasculated, forced to watch your best pieces burn, disemboweled, forced to watch your bowels burn, beheaded and quartered. And like this source puts it, and God have mercy on your soul. On the other side of the English Channel, not to be outdone by the English, continental Europe also wanted a gruesome way to kill people. Although not exactly medieval, it is certainly something. The time is the 30 Years' War, a war which causes range from the Catholic Church introducing a paywall to heaven, over a German priest demanding religion not to be paid to win, to the defenestration of imperial deputies. So, in this war emerged a practice called the Swedish Drink, or Swedish Drink. The modern Swede is known for pop songwriting, furniture making, and being generally pleasant, but the Swedish soldiers and mercenaries of the 17th century had something different in mind. The Swedish drink was pretty easy to carry out. You just needed someone to lend you a hand, a funnel, and large amounts of urine, excrement, or liquid manure. The first step is to constrain the victim, and then you just take the funnel and force the victim to swallow large amounts of the previously mentioned fluids. I bet you wouldn't be able to get rid of the taste for the rest of your life. Because you would die. Because you would die. Our next method was already time-tested when the 30 Years' War began. Impalement. After a long history in the Babylonian and Persian empires, it had been used for widely different reasons. In the Holy Roman Empire, impalement was used as a punishment for infanticide or adultery. The 1348 Statutes of Zwickau, for example, allowed the punishment of an adulterous couple in the following way. The couple were to be placed on top of each other in a grave, with a layer of thorns between them. Then, a single stake was to be hammered through them. Now, that is not the hammering they intended to do. Contrary to what one might think, transversal impalement ensured a quicker death than longitudinal impalement, as the latter could lead to a few days of suffering before death. This could be achieved by inserting the pike along the spine, thus avoiding vital organs. The most well-known connoisseur of this method must be a 15th century prince of Wallachia, Vlad III, or Vlad Dracula, nicknamed Vlad the Impaler. His most brutal display was during a disagreement with Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, the forest of Impaled, along the road to Targoviste, where over 20,000 Ottomans were turned into life-sized doner kebabs. And yes, he's the same man who is said to have inspired the story of the vampire Dracula. And that was already all for today. Like we saw, our ancestors really knew how to put the fun in funeral. Sleep well and always remember, a nickel a day keeps the sin away. Well, of course it always depends on the severity of the sin.